Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to Fewnilla County. And last time out we created our first little small town centre that you can see here with our pedestrianised shopping plaza area. And of course the City Hall, orientation important, centrepiece to our town centre there. And with that we did do a huge residential expansion onto our starting suburb too, which means that we now have a massive demand for jobs. So as mentioned, the plan for today is we're going to be coming in and doing something with this very interesting, horrendous terrain here to build out a big fishing harbour area with a bit of generic industry incorporated into it as well to try and satisfy some of those job demands. So that's going to be the focus for today. We're going to literally jump right in and start sorting this out. So we need to do a lot of terraforming here, and I think that's the first thing that I'm going to do. And looking at this landscape, it's pretty steep down to here, so I think we're going to need multiple layers to bring it down to the waterfront where ultimately the fishing harbours will sit. And then we'll have lots of interesting things going up in the layers as we go through. So I'm thinking at least 2 layers, possibly 3, so we'll see how we go when we terraform this out. So I'm going to turn my brush strength right up. I'm just going to go for a small brush for the time being, and I'm going to click on a height down here right by the coast so that we know it's not flooded. It's a height that's already existing there. We may get flooding, of course, across the course of this episode. But what I want to do is just start off by terraforming out a nice flat layer down by the coast here that we can start to put our fishing harbours on. So with the new update as well, we got a new seafood factory into the game, which I would really like to use here. However, it does also need plastic as well. So I'm thinking we're going to do a little bit of work on that too, potentially today, maybe in a future episode, but incorporating that into our industry area over there so we can get plastics in and get this seafood factory unlocked. But it's going to be relatively slow progress because I think we need 500,000 fish captured in order to unlock that, which is quite a lot. I won't lie. So we're just going to smooth out this layer like this. Of course it is going to flood for a second, but that should hopefully calm down. And then what we want to do is kind of gradually go up in the layers. So I'm going to choose another light layer here, another height here. I'm going to start dragging this across. And actually, if we smooth out from the top here, we can see it's very steep. It's very steep. So I think a third layer is probably needed here ultimately. So they're going to be skinny layers with a few buildings on each, but I think that's okay. We can make this pretty interesting. But that's going to be quite a sharp drop off from the edge of the ring road highway there. So we're going to need a bit of extra detailing around that, some kind of security fence at least to stop people from falling over. I think maybe we could come up a little bit higher with this third level, just so that drop isn't quite as severe as it seems there. I'll just go like that for now. Now obviously the edges are all going to need sorting out, so we will absolutely come back to that. But for now, I just want to make sure that we've got a nice slope down here. And what I was thinking, as mentioned in the previous episode, is I'm actually going to take this road underneath the highway because I think we're going to have rail coming in over to an embanked rail line that goes down here across the end of the suburb, this side. So if we just delete this off for now, let's pause it for a second so people don't get too confused. And we will just delete out this section of the ring road highway as well. And then we're going to grab our terrain tools. We're going to bring this one across here. So it goes underneath this highway road like that. And then what I do want to do is connect in this highway. I think this is potentially a little bit low here. I think I will just pull this back a little bit here. And let's just level off the terrain. So I really want to make sure this bridge is as flat as possible because that's probably the most challenging thing in vanilla is really getting them flat. And that looks like it dips down a tiny bit, so I'm just going to redo that. I don't mind if it arches a little bit. I don't want it dipping down. So like that, we get a slight hump, but yeah, I'm okay with that. And we'll just smoothly connect that in there, and that looks relatively flat coming out of it. So I think we'll be okay with this. So now back in terrain tools, let's get the slope tool, and we can actually just draw this back a little bit further as well. Let's get the slope tool. We're going to right click at the top of the slope here. We'll make it a small brush, and then we're going to just slope it like this. So we get some nice smooth terrain coming down there for drawing in our road. Terrain can be one of the most tricky things to work with, in all honesty, in this game, but once you get the hang, it's actually really not too bad. We'll grab our 4-lane road and we're just going to bring it out like this. Of course, that's now... Oh, it will go underneath. If we click there, just not any further. So yeah, that does now go underneath. We've got a little bit of a lamppost sticking through. So let's just see if we can make that better. Yeah, so there we go. I've just redrawn it and actually the lamppost, no, it's still sticking through, but thankfully it's off the lane at least, so it's not too bad. It could be worse. So we'll bring this down just like that for now. And then what I am thinking is we will do a couple of adjoining roads to this. And that's not looking too bad at all. We've got a kind of interesting little intersection onto our main ring road there. I'll be curious to see how people use that with the vanilla traffic AI. We'll keep our eye on it. So we can hit play again now. And then let's continue to slope this road up. Now I think that this is going to be incredibly steep. So we're going to have to do a little bit of curving, I think, here. We kind of curve the road down this way. We'll see how steep it is like this. And what I would like to do is actually use the new industrial small 4-lane road for this, which I think will go in really nicely with the fishing industry as well. So I'm going to just bring that down like that. Let's have a little look at it. It's a little bumpy, but it's not too bad. We might have a go at trying to smooth that out in the detailing time lapse later on, but it's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. So now let's get our fishing in, most importantly, because I want to start getting that fish count up and see if we can get to unlocking that seafood factory at all today. So first up, I am going to add in quays all the way along here. Now this will continue down here into a sort of small town, I'm thinking European suburbia style waterfront here, where we'll have the fish market over this side as well. So that'll be coming in a future episode. But for now, we'll just do it like this. So I'm going to see how many fishing harbours I can get along this stretch, because I'm wondering if we could do something a little bit more interesting and sink it back into the terrain over this side. If we just look at the height of it, it's pretty low to the water, which is good because I don't want huge jumps down from the fishing harbour at all. Now the interesting thing about fishing is you can draw the routes out into areas that you don't own. So you can see I can just about place this on the edge of the area here. I think we will go ahead and add that in. And let's have a second one right there. And for now, we can only use the fishing harbour. Once we unlock salmon, because that is clearly what's in abundance here from our little fishing legend over this side, which I think we get at 250,000 units of fish caught. We'll unlock that. We'll upgrade these because that will give us better yield overall for our fishing. So yeah, I am thinking we could fit in one more here, but let's do something a little bit interesting with the land and let's just push it back and terraform this in. So I'm going to grab the height just below the water level here and we're just going to push it back ever so slightly. Like it's going to be quite a subtle change, I'm hoping here. Now that the water's come in, we'll go back in and get our keys. It's saying shoreline required. We might just need to wait for the water to calm down this side. But we can now get that in like that, actually, which is good news. Can we continue this on? Let's turn snapping off and see if we can just get this around this side a little bit further. Okay, so we have finally got that in. That took a little bit of a messing around with the terrain around it. But now we just want to smooth off those bits on this side of the quay here. And most importantly, let's make sure we've got these hooked up. I think we will just use the ordinary vanilla road for the bottom part here because that will just make it feel a little bit smoother in between the fishing harbours. And then let's go ahead and see if we can just fit one more in here, which we can. Wonderful news. And we can just connect up these roads. Okay, so next up, let's get in our fishing routes. So like I said, you can actually build these out into areas that you don't know, which is really quite super useful, in all honesty. Because then you can put them on the edge of tiles. If you've only got a small area of water like this, it really doesn't matter too much. It doesn't matter at all to your fishing game, in fact. So I'm not going to make these super duper efficient. I'll obviously make sure that they are at 100%. If they're a little bit over, I'm not too bothered by that. I think the aesthetic of having fishing boats flowing around the waters is quite nice. So I'm okay if they're a little bit over and not the absolute most efficient they can be. Now, if you don't have fishing harbours, you will need the Sunset Harbour DLC in order to unlock them. If you haven't got that and are looking for any of the City Skylines DLCs, please do consider checking out my instant gaming link in the description below. They've got a massive amount of games at really great pricing, and it does also help to support the channel. Okay, so I have whacked this up to fast speed so that we can start getting our fishing in, and it does actually go up pretty quickly. So we're already at 47,000. It's only been a couple of minutes. All I did was terraform out this little slip road here so that we could start getting in our road networks for elsewhere in this complex. So I think I will go back to the industrial roads for this, and we're going to create a nice slip road going up here, which is going to connect all of the different layers together. So I do actually want snapping turned off, just so that we get smooth connections here. I'll turn on angles so we're coming out of this at a nice 180 degrees. I'll probably want to go up straight a little bit further, and then we'll come out and curve this round onto this top layer here. So I'm thinking with each of these, probably having a straight road going across the front of each layer is going to be the best idea. But what I would like to do is start from the bottom and fill the layers up so that we can terraform into the back of them and make sure we're using the space wisely and we haven't got awkward gaps left available. So for fishing as well, in the recent update, if you have the Industries DLC, you'll have access to warehouses, and these now do also store fish. So they never used to before. So yeah, great news from that point of view. So what I would like to do is start adding in a few of these down by the waterfront here. So I'm thinking, let's just delete out this power line for a second, and we'll go for a nice small warehouse right at the front here. I'm wondering if actually we can fit in a warehouse yard right next to it, which we can just about. So they look kind of good together, I think. And then to pair this as well, I would also like to get in the container assets from generic industry. So this is going to be, again, a little bit of trial and error to see if we can get these in here, but I'd really like to side by side. So we're just going to keep deleting them. I need to check actually, are they, I think we've got some over here. Are they level 2 asset? No, they're level 1, so we should be able to get them in with a bit of trial and error. It's a 4x4 just by selecting our assets down here. Thankfully we've got huge industry demand, so they should be coming in pretty easily. But as soon as we get it, we'll just hit that historicalize button and we'll keep it. In the meantime, let's go to our warehouses. And then here we're going to select our stored resources and we're going to go to fish. So all of our fishing harbours will now be taking their fish, hopefully, to these ones here. I am going to leave them unbalanced and hope that we don't get a massive influx of imported fish in, which would not be ideal. Maybe we'll change one of them actually to empty. We'll leave the other one unbalanced, just so we're not kind of overdoing it with the imports if they do happen. And so far we're not having much luck with this asset, but we'll keep going. And we also have our airport aprons, which could help to decorate some of this area. So if I try and get this on an angle, well, we can definitely put it in here to fill in that bit of grass between those warehouses. So if I try and get this on a nice angle here, we could have it so it's sort of filling out a little bit of area in front of this. We can see what props we could use. Again, very limited within the vanilla game to try and fill this out a little bit. We've got these recycling bins. We could definitely add in some of these here and hope that these sort of almost look like fish containers maybe. They have got the huge recycling logo all over them. If we go for the blue ones, it's sort of aquatic fish coloured, right? And we could just line these up here just to give ourselves something extra in this area. And potentially as well, just to add to it, we could give somewhere for the harbour workers to go by adding in a little food truck and potentially a couple of benches alongside it. And we could do some nice detailing around that. Now, yeah, we're definitely not having much luck with this asset. So I'm going to let it run and I'll be right back once I've got this asset in. Okay, so I finally got those in. I did put in another one here and another warehouse, and on doing that actually, I've just noticed for the first time, fish cannot be imported, which is great to know. So I have actually moved all of these to balance now, so we'll just leave it on that. We'll gather our fish into these warehouses for the moment, and then hope that we can get the seafood factory, which I think we are going to get because we're super close to getting 250,000 fish already. We only need 500,000 for that, but then we are going to have to introduce plastics as well. And the thing about oil with our map is there is only this one tiny little patch all the way out over here, and there's nothing else on the entire map. So it's going to be a long time before we get anywhere out there. So what we're going to have to do with oil is import the raw material and turn it into plastics ourselves, which is not a problem. That's easy enough to do. But it's just a different way of doing the Industries DLC. And yes, we have got a load of abandoned commercial buildings, really annoyingly. The reason is worker education is too low. Now, it did just prompt me to check these, and we're actually okay on that, but we don't have any university education at the moment. So what I am thinking for that is that we may just plop in one of these faculties. And this is not going to stay here, but it's just to appease them for now, and that will give us a little bit of the higher educated workers. So if we've got that in, it acts like a university, but it's much smaller. So it's only an 800 capacity. It costs an awful lot less, but that will give us a little bit of that higher education demand that our commercial is asking for. And we're absolutely fine, I would add, for elementary and for high school. We haven't got a problem with either of those. We've got tons of capacity there. So it is this element that we need to address. We've got a lot of people eligible, but I'm okay with not educating all of them. We don't have any offices in as of yet, so it's just the commercial which is demanding it. And because I historicalise all my buildings, I'm going to have to go around and try and get in the same assets again, which will take a while. We'll do that later. But back to our fish, and we have now unlocked the salmon fishing harbours, which is great news. And I'm hoping they're going to take up roughly the same amount of room, but we'll see. So let's go ahead and we're going to delete this one out, and we're going to replace it with a salmon fishing harbour here. So we'll just place it in like that, and then we just need to redo these little lines and make sure this is all connected in nicely, because they do change positions, as you'll see, with each of the different harbours that go in. We'll just make sure they're connected there. And I think we will do the same with one other as well. I'm kind of thinking keeping a generic fish one is okay. I mean, we do only have salmon here. It's probably a wise idea. It is probably a wise idea to redo them all, so let's go ahead and do that. So we've got 3 salmon fishing harbours in here now, and it has just connected into our roads nicely there. No problem at all. So let's start having a little think about these other layers as we go up. So I'm going to go back into terraforming, and we're just going to bring out this layer as close as we can get it to the back of these buildings now, so that we get a nice kind of smooth, gradual transition up there. Oh, and our buildings have deleted because the road went away. Wonderful. We'll get those back in. So I'm going to use this as the marker for this road, for this layer ultimately, and we're going to bring out a road as straight as we can get it across there. We want it to be pretty parallel to this one, in fact, so let's just turn on our road guidelines. We can snap into the guideline of this straight road here and bring this across like this, which will make it nice and straight. I'm going to bring it out into the road guideline and connect it up to here. Now this is the one trouble, is we're going to get little bumps in our road as they go up, but we'll need to live with that. It's going to be the same over here as we connect this in. Yeah, this could do with a bit more smoothing out now this side. The top part isn't too bad, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so we've managed to get one of those assets. Let's historicalise that so we can go ahead and zone in this other section. We'll just get rid of this one here. And we're getting nice stocks of fish stocking up into our warehouses here, which is great to see, but we're going to want to do something with it. So we do have the fish factory, which turns them into commercial zoned goods. So I think this would be quite a nice thing to add in here. Now if we just place it in like this, you can see we're getting tears in the terrain here. So we can fix that a little bit with a little bit of generic pavement vanilla path. If we just bring this across the front like this, you'll see that kind of fills in that area. So that we've got the fish factory at a nice interesting angle versus the road actually, and we have filled in that concrete there, so it feels like it makes a bit more sense in that area now. So just as soon as I placed in the old fish factory, I did realise that actually we have surpassed the 500,000 fish needed to unlock the seafood factory. So we are going to go ahead and get this in, and this will pump a lot more money into the city, which will be great news indeed. So I'm just wondering if we do draw in a road here, let's turn snapping on again so we get into the guidelines of this road. We can make sure that it is nice and straight here. I'm wondering if that gives us enough room to place it up on the top level here. Which it does. Let's just see what happens to the terrain next to the road. It's very steep, but it does just about work. I think that looks super cool on the top level up here. So we can definitely incorporate this in. We just need to make sure now that we're getting this road around the side here. So that is going to slope down a little bit. Yeah, let's remove that. We'll continue that one out the front. We need to do a tiny bit of terraforming again, just to level out the terrain a little bit around the edge of the fish factory here. We may have to bring in some quite sharp turns for this. So let's just delete this back again. We'll bring this a little bit further. And then I'm wondering, yes, we can push out that corner by drawing a road in here. Now it's a very, very steep drop off indeed, but it works. And if we just connect those up, we also get quite a nice smooth connection there. Now we will come in and tidy up a lot of these horrendous looking banks with some detailing, but actually, do you know what? I don't really mind the cliff texture too much. I think we can live with it, particularly for a very layered build like this. I would also like to connect the road up down this way. Now, if we do bring in a road like this, we're going to just raise this up a little bit. We're going to curve this round and then down into this one. I'm wondering if is it too steep as a bridge like that? It maybe looks a little awkward. So let's again, we'll bring out this level here just a little bit further, and then we're going to use slope function to go like this to draw out a road in front of the seafood factory, like so. Terrain can be trial and error, as I've mentioned. You just need to keep at it and you'll get the kind of desired thing that you want in the end. So yeah, I kind of like how that looks. And I'm also thinking we've got the cycle lane coming down to here. So what I would like to do, and I want pedestrians on it as well, so we'll just use the normal vanilla path for this. In fact, we might actually upgrade to a campus path. I think maybe the best option with this path is actually to tunnel it. So we're going to tunnel underneath here. And we need to sort of look underground with this one to try and make sure that we're keeping it relatively straight. If we bring it up to surface level now, yes, that gives us a nice connection there. And then we can hook it up to the road here, which will give them pedestrian and cycling access from this neighbourhood down into this district. And just thinking about here as well, we can do a very similar thing. So we're actually going to use the amusement park path for this. And we're going to just raise it up. I'm going to turn snapping off so we can get some interesting angles. We'll raise it up a little bit, like this. And then we're going to bring it down here. And that way, pedestrians and cyclists can get all the way from the suburb down here through the entire neighbourhood. Now, this probably needs sorting out a little bit just so that it connects in a bit smoother here. It feels a little better, but we could extend it out with a little bit of concrete path. And I'm going to flip that round so that the lamppost isn't up against the road. There we go. That's like nicely on the edge of the path there. So yeah, we've got decent pedestrian access coming down, but let's just have a little think about this. So we've got fish. I'm going to whack the production rate up to 150. We now need plastics. So I think we're going to use 2 of the warehouse yards up here, which will be fish again and plastics as well. We could even just do 2 lots of plastics up there. And I'm also going to bring in another warehouse down here, which will be for unique products. So we're getting lots and lots of warehouse vibes as we go up these slopes, but that is kind of what I want here. So we'll change this to unique factory products. We'll change this to plastics. I think we'll actually have 2 on plastics here because that's going to be the difficult thing for us to import into this area. So I'm going to turn the seafood factory off because you will see here, plastics are produced by the natural power plants and petrochemical plants, cannot be imported. However, we can import the raw oil and use those in those 2 plants to produce plastics from that. So in the next episode, we're going to be coming in over here and sorting out our service area. And with that, we're going to be introducing a very small oil district into the kind of power area as well, because I think those assets suit that type of build. And from that, we'll start producing plastics, which will feed our seafood factory. So we're going to worry about that in the next episode. We're just going to place it in for now so that we can design out our nice fishing harbour area. I'm just going to continue on this road network, and again we'll connect this up into here. I'm worried that this is slightly too close to this junction, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we do now have storage for everything apart from the commercial goods which are being made from the fish factory. So I think it would be again appropriate to bring in another warehouse for this. So we've got an awful lot of warehouses in this area, but I think they suit it pretty nicely. But we can bring one in down this end. And this can be for our commercial zone goods. And then in between it, what we do want to do is get in a bit more generic industry. Now there's some really nice 3x4 assets that I quite like to sit in, and also 2x4 as well. So we're going to try and mix in a few of these into this area here. So again, being very selective about our zoning for generic industry is super important. Now I know they're pollutive as well, but fish industry is not affected by that, so we're okay. We're okay to go a little bit nuts with it. And we have also actually unlocked offices now, and because we've plopped in that university asset, I'm not too afraid to go ahead and use some. So I think what we're going to do is have some very, very small office buildings up here. So again, we're going to be selectively zoning that to see what appears. If that gives us a little bit of height in front of our town, I think that that will be a good thing there. And likewise, we can do the same here. So let's actually just zone in a big strip of it and we can see what comes in there. We'll just remove those couple of trees. And here I'm going to use zoning adjuster on this road to change this up. So let's get zoning adjuster. We're going to go remove zones from this one, and then that will give us a nicer zoning area right here. And again, I'm going to mix in office for this. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap, a little bit of breathing room, because I think that will be nice around that. But we'll have just one office sitting here. Hopefully we'll get a few little pops in height as those zone in. And yeah, this is definitely the kind of assets I want. These sort of warehouse looking assets that have amazing props around them as well. We definitely want to be seeing these in here. Not so much these larger ones. Not as keen on that. In fact, I think we might just leave a bit of a green belt around that road there and see what happens with that. Okay, so we've got a lot of detailing around here to sort this out to make this look good. So we're going to be using lots of rocks and foliage around some of the big terrain height changes here. Of course, let's not forget as well that this will extend around this way, so this side may be a little bit raw. We'll use some airport aprons and some props to decorate certain areas. Try and do something nice again with these little gaps in between the fishing harbours at the front here. And obviously making sure that we're getting the appropriate assets in here that sort of fit the vibe and the area of it. So I'll go ahead and jump into the time lapse and I'll be right back. So I think it has turned out pretty cute actually. In the end it was definitely a slow burn, this one. It didn't look great before that detailing had gone in. But I think my favourite thing is this use of the park life tiles here, the city park tiles. It looks awesome, especially with the sort of rubble of the cliff texture from this theme poking through it. I really, really like this as a retaining wall idea. And this is all vanilla, which kind of astounds me. But the fact that the tiles go on slopey terrain like this is really cool. And also at the edges, they kind of get a little bit sort of messed up, which is what I wanted for this, really. I didn't want a kind of hard, solid line to it. So at the top where we had a little bit of that, I did this hedge against fence action here, which again, really quite enjoying that little sample, looking down to the harbours there with the containers in the front of it. It covers up the harsh edge at the top, and then at the bottom it feels a little bit more natural, particularly here. It's a little bit straight there. But yeah, really, really liking the aesthetic of that. That's the first time I tried that for a retaining wall idea in vanilla. And then of course we've got our stone decals up here, but some of the slopes are particularly steep, so it looks a little bit dodgy in places, but I don't mind it. This bit's quite nice down here. No sort of transition to a more natural boundary down this end, so I quite like the kind of, yeah, different elements to it. I didn't want to use the same retaining wall style idea across the whole thing because I thought it would be a little bit heavy and repeated. I'm really pleased with how this has come out. Now we've done things like add in this little back road here, a little bit of vanilla surface paint with some paths down the back here as well, just to extend out that concrete. Same goes for up here. We've done that in a few different places. Then just really come in and added a bit of greenery. And getting these repeated offices in down here was an absolute nightmare. As soon as I saw the first asset pop up, I was like, yes, I definitely want 3 of those in a row. I would, if my patience allowed, have gone for a yellow version of this here, but in the end, I managed to get 3 of the same ones in, so I'm sticking with that because it took an awfully, awfully long time. We have racked up the budget while I was waiting for the correct asset to come in there. And with the industry buildings as well, really liking this sort of little set of warehouses in between the bigger warehouses here. Lots of nice prop detailing which complement the container areas there. We could have, of course, used Ivanya's Industrial Evolution level 3 warehouse style buildings here, which would have looked super cool, but they are level 3, so waiting for those to upgrade, and I'm not even sure if we would be able to get them to level 3 at this point. Would have been pretty painful for this, so I have just left it as our basic level 1 generic industry. Yeah, really, really liking how this has turned out. And in terms of a name, I have actually decided to call it the Michael W. Fishing Harbour after one of our top tier patrons. Thank you so much, Michael, for all of your crazy support. I really, really appreciate it very much, and I hope you like your fishing harbour. And I did also as well actually come in with a bus line to provide a bit of public transportation down to here. So we've just got a very simple line coming from the main bus station in the Tyler town centre up there, stopping at the edge of the suburb, through the fishing harbour, again stopping back in the suburb and looping back round. It's got nice connections onto the trolley bus lines and onto the other bus lines, obviously through the main bus station there. So it's getting people about quite nicely. You can see one of the buses. I've used one of the Japan ones here. Absolutely loving these style of buses, and the fact they hold 74 passengers as well is greatly appreciated. Amazing assets. And we are also getting quite a bit of use through our little pedestrian path here. I can only see one person, of course, when I'm looking at it now. But there are quite a few using it. I've seen little streams coming out of here. There's another one. And down this hill and on into our area. We had a little bit of commercial in around the offices as well, which I thought gave a nice effect. So yeah, really liking the kind of mixed use vibes of this harbour. I think it's come together pretty well. So next time we will be coming onto that service area, of course, and tidying that up. That's the last bit of horrendous starting material that we need to get rid of in the city. So we'll be fixing that up and providing plastics for our new seafood factory over here. But for today, that is going to be it. So if you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are greatly appreciated. Please do let me know your ideas for the city in the comments as well. I'd love to take viewer suggestions and ideas for that. But that is all from me for now, so thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for the cinematics and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye!